Shalom. I want to start off by giving all praise and honor and glory to Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, HaKadosh. Double honor to the elders and apostles of Great Millstone. Shalom to all you sincere brothers who be out there across the four corners of the globe teaching this word in truth and sincerity. We are the real Hebrew Israelites, the true Israelites to the so-called Negroes, Hispanics, Native Americans, Latinos, and all of you Confucian face Akim who be scattered amongst the other nations, who might look like the other nations, but your seed line goes back to the man named Jacob, who was the progenitor of the Israelites. So, without much further ado, I'm going to get into today's lesson. And today I want to talk about the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah. So, for those of you who don't know this account, I'm going to do a short lesson on this. So, basically, Sodom and Gomorrah were a couple of cities that were destroyed by Yahweh in the Old Testament for the wickedness that took place in those cities. Now, if you don't know the term sodomy, it goes back to Sodom, because that's where they practiced a lot of homosexual acts. So I'm just going to get this account to give you the brief history of what happened. So this is in Genesis chapter 18, and this is the account where Abraham was pleading with the angels who said they were going to destroy the city, right? So the angels had just finished visiting Abraham, and they told him that he was going to have Isaac. And when they were about to leave, I'll start from there. So this is Genesis chapter 18, verse 16, and it says, "And the men rose up from thence and looked towards Sodom, and Abraham went with them to bring them on the way. And Yahweh said, Shall I hide from Abraham the thing which I do, seeing that Abraham shall surely become a great and mighty nation, and all the nations of the earth shall be blessed in him? For I know him that he will command his children and his household after him, and they shall keep the way of Yahweh to do justice and judgment, that Yahweh may bring upon Abraham that which he has spoken of him. And Yahweh said, Because the cry of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and because their sin is very grievous, I will go down now and see whether they have done altogether according to the cry of it, which has come unto me. If not, I will know. And if not, I will know." And this is carrying on in verse 22, and it says, "And the men turned their faces from thence and went towards Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before Yahweh." Now the reason why Abraham was worried, because he knew that his relative, I think it's his nephew Lot, was dwelling in Sodom and Gomorrah, so Abraham was worried about Lot and his household. So and the men turned their faces from thence and went towards Sodom, but Abraham stood yet before the Lord, before Yahweh. And Abraham drew near and said, Wilt thou also destroy the righteous with the wicked? Peradventure there be 50 righteous within the city. Wilt thou also destroy and not spare their place with 50 righteous that are therein? That be far from thee to do after this manner, to slay the righteous with the wicked, and the righteous should be that the righteous should be as the wicked. That be far from thee. Shall not the judge of all earth do right? And Yahweh said, If I find in Sodom 50 righteous within the city, I will spare all the place for their sakes. Which means that within all of Sodom and Gomorrah, if the Lord found 50 people who are righteous, he would have not destroyed the whole place. Okay? And Abraham answered and said, Behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord, which I am but dust and ashes. Peradventure there shall lack 5 of the 50 righteous. Wilt thou destroy all the city for the lack of 5? And he said, If I find there 45, I will not destroy it. So Abraham talked the Lord down to 45. If there were 45 righteous people within the city, Yahweh would not have destroyed it. And he spake unto him yet again, and said, Peradventure there should be 40 found there. And he said, I will not do it for 40's sake. So he came down again to 40. And he said unto him, Oh, let not Yahweh be angry, and I will speak. Sorry, Salakia, that's Lord. Oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak. Peradventure there shall be 30 found there. And he said, I will not do it if I find 30 there. So the Lord said he will not destroy the city if there were 30 people. So he's gone down from 50 people, 50 righteous people, down to 30. So this was the Lord's mercy. And Abraham was negotiating with him. Or I should say pleading with him. It's not a negotiation. And carrying on, it said, and he said, behold, now I have taken upon me to speak unto the Lord. Peradventure there shall be 20 found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 20's sake. And he said, oh, let not the Lord be angry, and I will speak yet but this once. Peradventure 10 shall be found there. And he said, I will not destroy it for 10's sake. And Yahweh went on his way as soon as he had left, communing with Abraham, and Abraham returned to his place. So what we've had there is the Lord said he was going to destroy Sodom and Gomorrah, but he would stay his hand and not destroy it if they found 50 righteous people there. Now Abraham pleaded with the Lord, and he got it down from being 50 righteous to only 10. So if you can imagine, within these whole cities, if there's only 10 righteous people found, Yahweh would have not destroyed this place. So I'm going to go into the next part of the story, which continues in Genesis chapter 19. And there came 2 angels unto Sodom at even, and Lot. Now Lot is Abraham's nephew. And there came 2 angels unto Sodom and at even, and Lot sat in the gate of Sodom, and Lot seeing them rose up to meet them, and he bowed himself with his face towards the ground. And he said, behold now, my lords, turn in, I pray you, into your servant's house, and tarry all night, and wash your feet, and you shall rise up early and go on your ways. Because Lot was a righteous man, and he wanted to do the right thing when he saw the angels. And they said, nay, but we will abide in the street all night. And he pressed upon them greatly, and they turned in unto him, and entered into his house. And he made them a feast, and did bake unleavened bread, and they did eat. But before they laid down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. So basically, what you had is all the men of Sodom and Gomorrah. They knew that the angels had come to visit Lot, and these guys lusted after them, and they wanted to have sex with these angels. So they were coming up to Lot saying, you know, bring these men out to us. So I'll continue the account. But this just shows how reprobate the people of Sodom and Gomorrah were. The fact that they wanted to have sex with these male angels, you know, madness. But before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round about, old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men that came in unto thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. Now, when you see the term that we may know them in the scriptures, that means to have sex. For example, when it will say like Isaac knew his wife, it means that he had sex with her. Or Jacob knew his wife Rebecca, it means he had sex with her, you know? So that's what it basically means. So that shows you that these men, these vile, filthy men, wanted to have sex with these angels. So, continuing on. Yeah, but before they lay down, the men of the city, even the men of Sodom, compassed the house round, both old and young, all the people from every quarter. And they called unto Lot and said unto him, where are the men that came into thee this night? Bring them out unto us, that we may know them. And Lot went out at the door unto them, and shut the door after him, and said, I pray you, brethren, do not so wickedly. Behold, now I have 2 daughters which have not known man. Let me, I pray you, bring them out unto you, and do ye to them as is good in your eyes. Only unto these men do nothing, for therefore came they under the shadow of my roof. Now basically what Lot said is that he had 2 daughters, and he was prepared to offer these men full of burning lusts, he was going to offer his daughters to the men, and he was going to say, only please don't touch these angels. And they said, stand back. And they said again, this one fellow came into sojourn, and he will needs be a judge. Now we will deal worse with thee than with them. And they pressed sore upon the man, even Lot that came near to break the door. So meaning that they were pressing up so hard against Lot that they were almost about to break down the door. That's how filled with lust these people were. But then the men put forth their hand and pulled Lot into the house to them and shut the door. So the angels pulled Lot into the house and shut the door. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness. So basically the angels took away the men that are around the house's sight. They cast blindness upon them. And they smote the men that were at the door of the house with blindness, both small and great, so that they wearied themselves to find the door. So they basically they couldn't see a damn thing. They were staggering around trying to find the door. And these men said unto Lot, Hast thou any besides son-in-law and thy sons and thy daughters? Hast thou here any besides son-in-law and thy sons and thy daughters, and whatsoever thou hast in the city, bring them out of this place, for we will destroy this place because the cry of them is waxing great before the face of Yahweh, and Yahweh hath sent us to destroy it. So these angels were, they didn't give a damn, man. They were going to put everybody in that city to death, but they were going to spare Lot, and this is for Abraham's sake. And Lot went out and spake unto his sons-in-law, which married his daughters, and said, Get up, get you out of this place, for Yahweh will destroy this city. But he seemed as one as mocked unto his sons-in-law. So basically, when he went up to them saying, Hey man, we've got to get out of here, these angels are going to destroy this place, the sons-in-law were like, What the fuck are you talking about? No one's going to destroy this place, They mocked him as if he was a madman. They didn't believe him. And when the morning arose, then the angels hastened Lot, saying, Arise, take thy wife and thy 2 daughters which are here, lest thou be consumed in the iniquity of this city. So basically the angels said, Look, take your wife, take your 2 daughters and get up out of this place, lest you be destroyed with this place. And while he lingered, showing that he was, obviously he probably wanted to see his sons-in-law and whatnot saved, so Lot was tarrying. And while he lingered, the men laid hold upon his hand, and upon the hand of his wife, and upon the hand of his 2 daughters, and Yahweh being merciful unto him. Yahweh being merciful unto him, and they brought him forth from sitting without the city. So the angels basically said, what, they didn't say anything. They grabbed his hand and they led him out, and Lot, his wife, and his 2 daughters, and they led him out of the city. And it came to pass, when they had brought them forth abroad, that he said, Escape for thy life. Escape for thy life. Look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain. Escape to the mountain, lest thou be consumed. And Lot said unto them, Oh, not so, my lord. Behold, now thy servant hath found grace in thy sight, and thou hast magnified thy mercy which thou hast shewed unto me, saving my life. And I cannot escape to the mountain, lest some evil take me and I die. Behold, now the city is near to flee unto, and it is a little one. Oh, let me escape thither. Is it not a little one? My soul shall live. So Lot was afraid to go up into the mountains. He was like, Can I just please go over to that small city over there? And he said unto him, See, I have accepted thee concerning this thing, also that I will not overthrow this city for the which thou hast spoken. Haste thee, escape thither, for I cannot do anything till thou be come thither. Therefore the name of the city was called Zor. So Lot escaped into the city called Zor. And the sun was risen upon the earth when Lot entered into Zor. Then Yahweh rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Yahweh out of heaven. So basically, when they talk about, you hear people talk about the wrath of God and fire and brimstone, this was real. This actually happened and destroyed these cities, Sodom and Gomorrah, and I think it was 5 other cities around it, if I'm not mistaken. Slovakia. I don't want to. That's roughly paraphrasing. I don't want to. Without it, there's a fact it escapes my memory. But so it says, and then Yahweh rained upon Sodom and upon Gomorrah brimstone and fire from Yahweh out of heaven, and he overthrew And he overthrew those cities and all the plain, and all the inhabitants of the cities, and that which grew upon the ground. But his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. So basically, Lot's wife was looking back at the Sodom and Gomorrah, and when she did that, she also got consumed with the fire because she didn't give heed to the Lord. When back in verse 17, it says, and it came to pass when they had brought them forth abroad that he said, escape for thy life, look not behind thee, neither stay thou in all the plain, escape to the mountain lest thou be consumed. But Lot's wife, she made the mistake of looking back. So and it says in verse 26, but his wife looked back from behind him, and she became a pillar of salt. In verse 27 it goes on to say, and Abraham got up early in the morning to the place where he stood before Yahweh, and he looked towards Sodom and Gomorrah, and behold, and toward all the land of the plain, and behold, and lo, the smoke of the country went up as smoke from a furnace. And it came to pass when Yahweh destroyed the cities of the plain, that Yahweh remembered Abraham, and sent Lot out of the midst of the overthrow which he had over the cities which Lot dwelt. So basically, Yahweh remembered his promise to Abraham, and he spared Lot by delivering him from those cities. And in verse 30 it says, and Lot went up out of Zoar, and dwelt in the mountain, and his 2 daughters with him, for he feared to dwell in Zoar, and he dwelt in a cave with his 2 daughters. So that basically means that Lot was so traumatized by what had happened, the destruction of Sodom and Gomorrah in those 2 cities, that he went and dwelt in the mountains as the angels had originally instructed him to, because I guess he must have seen some wickedness taking place in Zoar, and he's probably petrified that the same kind of destruction that had just happened to Sodom and Gomorrah would happen in that city as well, so he went and dwelt in the mountain. So that's a basic account of what happened in ancient Sodom and Gomorrah, and what we're living in is a replay of that situation. So I want to get a couple of scriptures that and precepts to touch upon that point. So let me see. Okay, so I'm going to get Isaiah 3 and 9. So what you've got today is a lot of people who think it's okay to be a sodomite or commit homosexual acts and so on and so forth. But this is Isaiah 3 and 9, and it says, the shew of their countenance doth witness against them, and they declare their sin as Sodom, they hide it not. Woe unto their souls, for they have rewarded evil unto themselves. And this is Jeremiah 23 and 14. And it says, I have seen the prophets of Jerusalem, and a horrible thing. They commit adultery and walk in lies. They strengthen also the hands of evildoers, that none doth return from his wickedness. They are of all of them unto me as Sodom, and the inhabitants thereof as Gomorrah. So basically, in this society, they uplift homosexuality, they uplift LGBTQ, which is strengthening the hands of the wicked. So I'm going to read this precept again. Jeremiah 23 and 14, it says, I have seen also in the prophets of Jerusalem an horrible thing. They commit adultery and walk in lies. They strengthen also the hand of evildoers, that none doth return from his wickedness. They are all of them unto me as Sodom, and the inhabitants thereof as Gomorrah. So here's another scripture precept. This is Jeremiah 50 and 40, and it says, as Yahweh overthrew Sodom and Gomorrah, and the neighbour cities thereof, saith Yahweh, so shall no man abide there, neither shall any son of man dwell therein. So basically, even unto this day, you can look it up, Sodom and Gomorrah still exists, and it's an everlasting memorial of the judgment that Yahweh brought. Now the memorial that's going to come when Yahweh brings judgment on America is going to be even greater, and that's going to be that whole continent, that whole country is going to be destroyed. So are you ready? Moving on. This is Ezekiel 16 and 49, and it says, behold, this was the iniquity of thy sister Sodom, pride, fullness of bread and abundance of idleness was in her and in her daughters, neither did she strengthen the hand of the poor and the needy.